Hola.
All right, everybody. We are back. Welcome to the Rumble side. We got some super chats we're going to do, some Rumble rants, and then we got plenty more show for you guys tonight. Thanks very much for being here. Michael Castillo says, good evening, gentlemen. Max Blumenthal reported on Judge Knapp's show that Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has said he wants his sons to one day serve in the military to defend Israel. Oh, yeah.
No, holy shit, really?
We got, don't worry, we're going to get to that guy. That is some fucking guy there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, that is quite the prize he found there. Michael Castillo, again, Donald Trump's picks just really depressed me and anger me. Free Palestine. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that very much. SS says psychology, because we need to go from yelling the same things over and over at people who never change to figuring out how people change. And this is why voting won't fix anything, and the hope of a political solution must be abandoned. Hopefully JD gets the point and pivots to psychology. You want this to become a psychology show? I mean, in a sense, it already is. In a sense, most of these podcasts are psychology. There's an element of, there's a therapeutic element to all of this, I suppose.
Purging.
A purging, yes, that's correct. Eric Cousseau says, hooray, we get a Christian nationalist Fox News talking head. I assume you mean Mike Huckabee. Well, Pete Hegseth, too. Lauren Brightbill, hey, if you're going to get started at 3, tell us you're starting at 2:30. We've been trained. Hey, we were right on time today. The show's been starting on time recently as well. Tony B, Keaton and Russell are everywhere like a fistful of datas. Yeah, no, we have busy this week.
We're like the R2D2 and C3PO of the podcast world. We just kind of wander through all of the different episodes.
Yeah, exactly. Sage and Fool, Trump has not announced Rubio. He has, as of this afternoon.
Yes, he has.
That's now official, but has announced a bunch of others. New York Times has tried to force Trump into the appointment, but it's not working. Well, no, they didn't try to force it into him, and if they did, it did work. He has announced it. Did you notice how Biden appointed Kamala by simply announcing it? Standard BS. Rumble rants. Adriana Valentina, Australia, could have at least picked some more patriots like Janine Pirro, Kerry Lake, Joe DeGeneva, Mike Flynn, etc. I don't know about Marco Rubio. I have a funny feeling about him. All right. Russell, we got some more. We can do those when we break. Do you see where we were at in the text chain? You can read the next batch, maybe.
Yeah. What did you just read?
I just read up till when Malcolm... up to the blue.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
Okay. Yep. All righty, folks. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. Keaton Weiss and Russell Dobular here filling in for Jimmy this week while he is on the road. There is a lot to talk about. The Trump Team 2.0 is stacking up, and so we have some of the latest. Forbes did a breakdown. Trump's cabinet picks for key roles: Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Pete Hegseth, and more. So the real positions are reserved for AIPAC recipients, but Trump was kind enough to create a new fake agency for Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to head up. So they do get that as a consolation prize. President-elect Donald Trump announced Tuesday billionaire backer Elon Musk and supporter Vivek Ramaswamy will lead a new Department of Government Efficiency, while Fox News host Pete Hegseth will serve as Secretary of Defense, the latest in a flurry of appointments in the days since Trump won the election, tapping some of his staunchest defenders and loyalists for roles in the administration. Attorney General and Secretaries of Defense, State, and Homeland Security are top priorities for Trump, according to the New York Times, citing people familiar with his thinking who said he is keen on candidates who will remove career bureaucrats Trump considers to be part of what he refers to as the deep state. Breaking just as we went live, of course, Matt Gaetz has been tapped for Attorney General. So that was a mystery as of the release of this article, but is no longer a mystery as of now. Trump announced Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest person, will run a new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, alongside investor and former Republican primary candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Trump said in a statement, the department, which has not yet been created, will offer advice and guidance from outside of government and focus on making changes to the federal bureaucracy with an eye on efficiency, including through spending and regulatory cuts. Okay, so
we're going to do something about the $108 hammers at the Pentagon then?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, yeah. Don't hold your breath for that.
The Pentagon also, that can't pass an audit. This is how you know the fix is in, folks. This is how you know the fix is in, because you'll get some people who will say, what? Are you saying there's no government waste? No. I think most of it is at the Pentagon. And the fact that they don't say the fucking word Pentagon tells you what they're thinking. They're going to go after food stamps. They're going to go after Social Security. They're going to go after Medicaid. They're not going to touch the Pentagon. That's where most of that waste is. They can't pass an audit. You're going to talk about a Department of Government Efficiency and not mention the Pentagon?
Right.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. Well, this whole thing is, it says there, advice and guidance from outside the government. Okay, so it's not a real agency then. It's a fake agency. It's a pretend agency.
Right. That's very Trump. He called it department to give it branding, right?
Government jobs are for AIPAC stooges only. You get the fake agency. You get the fake work. Musk, a vocal Trump backer who donated over $100 million to a pro-Trump super PAC, has pitched the department in the past, seemingly name it after the meme cryptocurrency Dogecoin. Okay, so those are the two fake jobs he gave to Elon and Vivek. But get a load of this guy, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He has been nominated. Trump selected Pete Hegseth as his Secretary of Defense Tuesday, praising his status as a combat veteran and role as co-host on Fox and Friends Weekend. Hegseth was deployed in Cuba, Afghanistan, and Iraq while serving with the Army National Guard. The veteran is the former CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, a conservative organization that has communicated with Trump on the matter of veterans affairs and received backing from billionaire Charles Koch, one of the wealthiest people in the world. Hegseth has also made appearances on various Fox Nation series. All right, Michael Tracy dug up this gem here. Apparently, a bit of a Ukraine hawk as well. So here he is. Pete Hegseth, the Fox News anchor Trump just picked for defense secretary, produced a 2022 special called The Worst Case Scenario, in which he said the future of America and the Western world were at stake in Ukraine, impacting the cause of freedom for generations to come. So here it is, Exhibit A.
In Ukraine is unraveling at a rapid pace. Cruise missiles and columns of tanks, threats of nuclear war, and dire consequences. One question hangs over everything. What is Russian President Vladimir Putin capable of? And how far is he willing to go? This is the worst case scenario. The consequences of this war are still unfolding, and the future of not just Ukraine, but America and the Western world is in jeopardy. The actions taken today in Ukraine, in the halls of Europe, and in the White House will impact the cause of freedom for generations to come. We pray for peace, but plan for war. History shows us that peace only comes through strength, strength that is meant to deter war. But war has broken out, which is why we must consider the worst case scenario.
So, folks, what do you think he thinks about Israel? Well, let's see. Zionism is Americanism. Pete Hegseth.
Oh, wow.
A serial adulterer, apparently. I guess that's a prerequisite to work at Fox. You have to be a serial adulterer. That's just a, hey, you can't fault them there. It has to be on your resume.
You've never been accused of nothing. They don't trust you.
That's right. He also promotes dual loyalty as a good thing. Yes, that's right. Here he is.
Wants to take the stage.
Sorry.
Anyone that wants to take the stage and talk about dual loyalty is dead wrong. What this organization represents, what Western civilization represents today, is an understanding that Zionism and Americanism are the front lines of Western civilization and freedom in our world today.
Oh, that's not all. Not even close. Here we go. What can Israel learn from America? No, you need to reverse that question. The question is, what can America learn from Israel? Here's another gem from the next Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
When I came here, a lot of people asked me, a couple of people this morning in a press conference, what can Israel learn from America? Was asked a couple of times. And each time I stopped and I said, you need to reverse that question. The question is, what can America learn from Israel?
Got to tell you, I'm starting to think Epstein had a second plane just for this guy. You know, could be a second part to that story that we haven't heard yet. That's what it sounds like. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, how is this make America great again? How does it make and to be fair, I mean, Trump danced around in front of a bank of Israeli flags, bragging how well he served the Adelsons the first time around. So I can't say this isn't what he promised. A lot of people, when we would point this out, would say, no, he's playing 4D chess. Well, no, looks like he's just playing plain old checkers. He told you Israel was his priority, and those are the appointments that he's making. Now with Ukraine, he was kind of all over the map, but his appointments are once again showing a hawkishness there that contradicts some of his rhetoric. But none of this is really a surprise. This is what's the best predictor of future behavior? Past behavior. The idea Trump was just a babe in the woods the first time. Okay, well, what about this time then?
Yeah, no, pretty crazy stuff. Here's one more video I have to show you here. Now, look, fair is fair. He doesn't produce the segments necessarily. He's not in control of what B-roll is showing while he monologues. But when you look at the words coming out of this sick fuck's mouth juxtaposed with the images on the other side of the screen, this just shows you how just stone cold. I don't know. Jimmy said something about if you call somebody sociopathic, they demonetize you. It's as if he was sociopathic.
That true?
I don't know.
I called Kamala that for like 2 years.
Yeah, we say it a lot, so I don't know what the rule is there. But I'll say this. You have to be a pretty unfeeling person to talk like this with these images going on the other side of the screen. So here he is.
If you open up your Bible, God granted Abraham this land. The 12 tribes of Israel established the constitutional monarchy 1000 BC. King David was their second king and established Jerusalem as the capital. Jews were fighting foreign occupiers for centuries, ultimately maintaining a presence there. But the key aspect, and right now, Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims are trying to erase the Jewish ties to Jerusalem as we speak. I've been there multiple times. They're trying to make it look like Jews were never there. The most important aspect of this is the international community granted sovereignty to the Jews, to the Jewish state after World War II, and Israel has had to fight defensive war after defensive war with every country coming to crush it ever since then just to exist.
This is something I've said again and again since this broke out. You know, they kicked me out of Hebrew school when I was 9, and I haven't been tuned into the conversation around this since then. It is amazing to me how frozen and amber all the talking points are. This is shit they used to say to me in Hebrew school. That's exactly the narrative. Oh, we just want to live in peace, and we're surrounded by enemies, and if they would just leave us alone, we could live in peace, and we're just constantly under threat fighting defensive wars. I mean, he's just parroting the whole party line there, man. That doesn't seem very America first to me. Maybe I misunderstood what that meant. That seems like dual loyalty. Isn't that dual loyalty?
Well, he just said 2 clips ago. He said, "Hey, you shouldn't say that as if it's a bad thing." Right?
Right.
I mean, I won't play the whole thing again, but just the first few seconds, just look at the footage on the other side of the screen. How like I said, how broken do you have to be to talk like this amidst what's going on?
Ainsley, if you open up your
Gaza
Bible,
City on the side.
God granted Abraham
You're digging bodies
this land.
out from under
the
the
12 tribes of Israel established the constitutional monarchy 1000 BC. King David was their second king and established Jerusalem as the capital.
Guy goes on a biblical rant while the B-roll is people pulling corpses out from under rubble. Corpses of kids, corpses of women. Just absolutely sick. Absolutely. I mean, Jesus, where they find this fucking guy from? You know, I'm starting to think, you mentioned it kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you were joking. I think you meant it seriously. And I actually think you are literally correct about this, whether you were meant it sarcastically or half kiddingly or not. You know, when Obama got that list from Citigroup of people who they wanted in the cabinet.
I was not kidding.
No, you said it seems like Miriam Adelson gave him a list. It seems like she gave him a list because these picks are just.
No, I wasn't kidding.
No, like I said, I didn't think you were kidding. But, like, okay, very few people in Washington are not pro-Israel. So it would stand to reason there's going to be some pro-Israel people in your cabinet. This is like a cartoonishly over the top.
Right.
This
Relentless.
guy for Secretary of Defense,
Right.
this
Right.
fucking guy. And
This-
we talked about Elise Stefanik later. We talked about that on our show yesterday. We have more coming up throughout the course of the stream. But this is just like, I mean, it is cartoonish how over the top it is.
Right. And it makes sense that in order to appease his base, he would stick Tulsi in a position that's not really forward facing regarding Israel policy.
Right.
But she's gonna give him the intelligence brief. Whatever.
Well, she's not even anti-Israel anymore.
No.
Apparently she was at some point.
No, but she's not enough of a foaming at the mouth maniac apparently for Miriam Adelson.
Right. Yeah. I
So,
don't
you
think
know,
she was on
he had to
Miriam's
give her
list.
some kind of real job, I guess they felt, but it's not a job. It's not like you're out there in front of the cameras like the defense secretary or the secretary of state are going to be. And all of those really important front of camera positions, he's putting maniacs. This is what I'm saying. Yeah, it looks like Miriam Adelson told him, okay, you want this kind of money? This is your cabinet if you win.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one after the other after the other. That, in addition to the fact that,
I'll tell you what, for Vivek, Elon, you give them a little fake agency, make something at your department, whatever. I don't care. Whatever you want to do with that.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, a Fox News host. I mean, this is one of the crazier ones. This is really one of the crazier ones. And it just when you look at just the fanatical foaming at the mouth, bending over backwards. I mean, look at this again here. This.
When I came here, a lot of people asked me, a couple of people this morning in a press conference, what can Israel learn from America? Was asked a couple of times. And each time I stopped and I said, you need to reverse that question. The question is, what can America learn from Israel?
The question is, what can America learn from Israel? America first. Wow. That is quite something.
Yep. That's MAGA for you.
All right, so I will set this up once again. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular. We are running down the Trump list of cabinet picks. They are quite the lot so far, and here's another one. Another big prize here. United States Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. That's right. Mike Huckabee tapped for ambassador to Israel. Trump announced Tuesday he appointed former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee to serve as his envoy to Israel on Tuesday, touting his military service as he served in the Army Special Forces for 27 years. Huckabee is a staunch supporter of Israel and has criticized the Biden administration's calls for a ceasefire with Hamas. Pardon me. Huckabee has advocated for Israel to annex parts of the West Bank, which Israel occupied in 1967, and has backed Israeli settlers in the territory. A former Southern Baptist pastor, Huckabee regularly leads evangelicals on visits to Israel. Here is a great little montage that Hotspot put out. Meet the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Quote from Huckabee, among other outrageous quotes in this montage, "There's no such thing as a Palestinian." So here we go.
I mean, there really is no such thing as, and I have to be careful in saying this because people will really get upset. There's really no such thing as a Palestinian. There's no, Arab Persians, there's such complexity in that. There's really no such thing. That's been a political tool to try to force land away from Israel.
The two-state solution, if we mean two governments holding the same piece of real estate, is irrational and unworkable. If there is a two-state solution, the Palestinian state needs to be outside the boundaries of the nation of Israel.
Outside the boundaries. What boundaries might those be? Those might be a river and a sea. That's what he means by the boundaries. So between the river and the sea,
to the sea,
from the river to the sea, that's Israel's, according to him. Almost like that rhetoric tends to come from the Zionists. Not so
Who knew?
much. Yeah. Outside the boundaries. Let's play that one more time.
Holding the same piece of real estate is irrational and unworkable. If there is a two-state solution, the Palestinian state needs to be outside the boundaries of the nation of Israel. There's plenty of land in the world that we could find a place and say, okay, let's create a Palestinian state.
All right. How about Arkansas? I nominate Arkansas. How's that for an idea? He's not done. He's got more.
There are certain words I refuse to use. There is no such thing as a West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. There's no such thing as a settlement. They're communities, they're neighborhoods, they're cities. There's no such thing as an occupation.
This just in from the Italian Prime Minister. There's no such thing as Britain. There is Britannia.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, what do you say to that, man? I mean, look, this is why I said, I'll speak for myself. I think I could speak for Russ. This is why I said, in the run up to the vote, as the campaign was winding down, I said, look, I understand people make a decision about a lesser evil in the privacy of a voting booth. I've often compared Donald Trump to the, gun with one chamber empty. If you're going to play Russian roulette, there's a 1 in 6 chance when you pull the trigger, you'll survive. And I described Kamala Harris as, a gun with every chamber hot. So I understand the privacy of a voting booth. You go in with your lesser evil pick and you fill the ballot out how you want. But this is exactly why I was emphatic that I could not and would not support Donald Trump or instruct people to vote for Donald Trump. Because what do people have to say for themselves now? If you are an anti-Zionist, anti-Israel, pro-Palestine person, what do you have to say for yourself now if you were telling people to vote for Trump, or if you were taking a flyer and say, what do you say? I mean, that's why I never told people to support Trump. I know Russ didn't. I know Jimmy didn't either. I know he said that on this show because of this, because what the fuck, how do you look your audience in the face now and tell them, yeah, no, it's great move.
It's great. Well,
great move.
And you can see them trying to do it. You can see people who are gobsmacked by these shows, which we are not, because we said this is what he was very likely to do.
Right.
As soon as he got into office. Why don't you wait until he gets in office? So come on, man. Come on. Like, his picks tell you what he's going to do when he's in office.
His ambassador to the UN, which we'll get to. Sorry.
Even a more competent, informed, educated president than Trump cannot micromanage these agencies. A lot of books have been written about how little power the president really has, because it's an enormous bureaucracy. How much direct control can you really exert on a day-to-day basis over how the State Department runs, how the Department of Defense runs? So who you pick to run those agencies is really you setting policy. That is really where you're setting policy, because you're not going to get on the phone to check them every day. It's impossible. You're going to call everybody, EPA every day, right?
Right.
He's telling you right now, what he's going to do when he's in office. He's showing you what he's going to do when he's in office with these picks.
Yeah, it broke the other day. The Israeli finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, is saying, well, we're just going to go in and annex the West Bank and claim Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank.
That was always the plan. Yep.
And that was, he said, he announced that plan in response to Trump's victory. Right. He said, now that we have President Trump coming in, we expect he will back this. And look, with an ambassador like this, I mean, he has good reason to think that they'll back it. There's nothing holding them back now. Now you could say, well, was there anything holding them back under Joe Biden? No. What did I tell you? I said the pace at which this develops will likely be faster under Trump, because they're not under any obligation to virtue signal to their base that they care about imprisoned and colonized brown people, whereas the Democrats are, right? The Democrats appoint Linda Thomas Greenfield to the UN, this very soft-spoken African-American woman, right? Who does Trump send? Elise Stefanik, just a loudmouth, in-your-face, bull in a china shop, full-bore Zionist. She came out against UNRWA funding last week. She came out against UNRWA funding after a whole month where hardly any aid got into northern Gaza at all. The only reason they let a little bit in is because the Biden administration made that empty threat that they were going to cut off arms, which they just announced Today, they are not going to cut off our. So that's the difference. The difference is the pace at which this will unfold. But now they have full-throated advocates at all the posts.
Sure.
All the key posts here are
Well,
full-throated Israel advocates.
Well, what's really funny about this whole movement, if you want to call it that, they're such Western chauvinists, and part of their premise is that they are from the culture of rational analysis. We are from the culture of Plato and Aristotle. We are from Western civilization. Look at these backward people with their Quran. You just put a Christian accelerationist
that's the other
as the
element,
ambassador of Israel. You got a guy who I've been saying this since this broke out. These people, these Christian Zionists, they want the Jews there to be Jesus bait.
Yes.
Their whole investment in Israel is so that Jesus will come, the prophecy will be fulfilled, and then the Jews can convert or get thrown into the lake of fire.
Right.
That's, the Jews, who obviously don't believe in any of this, are happy to take their money, their weapons, their political support, and not worry too much about the lake of fire part.
Yeah. Yep. Quite the pick there. Quite the two picks we've chronicled so far. All right. Why don't we take a quick super chat break? So Russell, why don't you read some of those, and then we will continue on.
All right. Let's see what we got. I don't think he sent any after that, because you did the Australia ones, right?
No, they're there. They're no. Yeah, we have. It's up there.
I see.
Wyatt
You're up
Holiday.
there. I got you.
Yeah.
Wyatt Holiday. Gary, wow, did not expect to see you on this side of YouTube. Hail the fellowship. Hail. I'm a big nerd. Hey, I'll show you what a nerd I am. Star Wars phone.
Oh yeah.
Star Wars phone.
I should have showed Gary the Star Wars.
I should have. I was thinking about putting it in the back. I was afraid it was going to be distracting. Sir Cramptonian. Woohoo! Tulsi Gabbard for DNI. Peter Verizon 1. Please ask Nerdrotic this right away, please. When did woke change its original definition from realizing the government is awful to what it is now? It's actually an interesting question, but obviously can't ask him now. Robin V. Just tuned in and seeing Nerdrotic on Jimmy Dore show is awesome. By the way, the Halloween stream was funny as fuck. You know what? I'll pass that on to him, because we always write a thank you email after an appearance. Eric Maines. Which Hollywood lots will be first to be turned into pickleball courts and walking spaces for retirees? Goodbye, Hollywood elites. You won't be missed. No, they will not. Kareem, are you joyful, though, with picks like Rubio, Getz, Huckabee, Waltz, Stefanik, and others? Okay, Getz, we're going to have to look into a little more. Lee Fong, who we respect, dropped an article that was pretty positive about the Getz pick, but we haven't had time to read it. So,
I mean, the Matt Gaetz, yeah. I mean, I feel like that could have been worse. I feel like I feel about Tulsi that could have been worse. I mean, the thing you got to think about with the Gaetz thing is, he's taking out of Congress one of his most loyal attack dogs in Congress, who was there to, make life hell for Mike Johnson. So you're losing one there for an AG who is definitely loyal to Trump. So if that is high on his list of priorities, which all indications are that it is, I think that makes sense for him. And yeah, I mean, he could have certainly picked someone worse than that. So, with that, that's an example of a pick that really, I think, makes the MAGA base pretty happy. It's not one of those maverick picks, though. It's not from the sort of podcast coalition, I call it, the sort of amorphous independent.
It's not Joe Rogan for AG.
Right. Exactly. It's not Rogan. Yes, exactly. It's not a Rogan-like pick. Yes.
All right. Do we want to hold these 3 Rumble rants, or we want to do?
Yeah, we can hold those. We can leave those.
Okay.
Yeah. Until the end. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, filling in for Jimmy this week. We are going down the list of Trump cabinet appointees. Lots to get to Here's one: National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Trump confirmed Tuesday he appointed Representative Mike Waltz from Florida to serve as his national security advisor. In recent months, Waltz, a former Army Green Beret, has frequently criticized China, urged NATO members to pay more for defense, and said he expects Trump to push Ukraine and Russia towards a negotiated end to the Ukraine war. Elise Stefanik is the new UN ambassador. Trump announced Sunday he'd nominate GOP conference chair Elise Stefanik from New York for the United Nations ambassador role, and she told the New York Post she had accepted the offer. Stefanik, of course, fanatical Israel supporter, came out against UNRWA funding just last week. She has just been, a staunch supporter of Israel. She's done interviews with Rabbi Shmuley. That you couldn't really get a more pro-Israel stalwart to head to the UN on our behalf than Elise Stefanik. And now, Secretary of State, this was likely at the start of the day. It's now confirmed. Trump officially announced he has offered this position to little Marco Rubio. That's right. Trump is likely, like I said, at this printing, it was likely. It is now confirmed to pick Senator Marco Rubio from Florida as his Secretary of State, according to multiple reports. The New York Times says Trump might change his mind, and CNN reports Trump set his sights on Rubio after initially favoring former acting director of national intelligence Rick Grenell for the job. Rubio, a high-profile Republican who was reportedly among the finalists for Trump's running mate choice, has a reputation as a foreign policy hawk, favoring tough approaches on China and Iran. Rubio said prior to the election he believed a Trump administration would broker a negotiated settlement to end the war in Ukraine. Rubio and Trump were bitter rivals in the 2016 GOP presidential primaries, often clashing vehemently, but their relationship has improved since then. Breakthrough News puts out Trump's pick for Secretary of State shatters any illusion of America First, No Wars presidency. Marco Rubio's ferocious, hawkish anti-China screeds have been a central theme of his career. Here's the video they attached to that.
Itself to be anything, but China has shown itself to be anything but a responsible global partner. And this is a dangerous recipe for conflict.
So you see this alliance of countries that are starting to line up underneath this Chinese world order. It won't be identical to the Cold War, but I will just say China is a much bigger threat to America than the Soviet Union ever was to America or the world. But then, not to mention, we do have near-peer adversaries. We didn't 25 years ago. The United States lived in a unipolar world where we were the only show in town. Now there are at least one unprecedented near-peer adversary, the Chinese Communist Party.
Today's China, governed by the Chinese Communist Party, is not playing by any rules. It's a predatory state in nature, and it actively seeks to supplant not just the United States, but a world order committed to democracy, human rights, and the dignity of all.
Of course, yes.
That's that's quite a distortion of reality. Remind me which genocide the Chinese are funding and equipping right now.
Yeah, well,
Please
he'd probably
remind
name
me.
you one. He would probably have that in common with Butch Ware over at the Green Party. But yeah, they would agree on that. Look, Rubio, we know Rubio is a fanatical Zionist. We know he is extremely hawkish on China and on Iran. Thankfully, he's moderated slightly on the Ukraine issue, which was probably just a result of political pressure. That is, I would pretty much guarantee that is a political position of convenience rather than conviction. But hey, politics is about moving people, so you take the win where you can. But one thing that I think is worth pointing out is he's extremely hawkish on Latin America. And Max Blumenthal pointed this out here. Marco Rubio partnered with convicted criminal Bob Menendez to push for allowing more Venezuelan migrants into the U.S. as the two work to destroy Venezuela's economy and overthrow its government. Trump has rewarded Rubio, the GOP author of TPS, that's Temporary Protected Status, by nominating him as Secretary of State. So let's look at this from January of 2021. Press release, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, a Republican, of course, joined Senators Bob Menendez, Dick Durbin, Patrick Leahy, and Cory Booker, all Democrats, by the way, in introducing the Venezuela Temporary Protected Status Act of 2021. Temporary protected status, that's what those Haitian migrants had, that we were supposed to be really furious that they were taking jobs from blue-collar workers in America. Well, guess what? Look at this. A bill to grant temporary protected status for eligible Venezuelans currently in the U.S. who fled the Maduro regime's man-made crisis. Thanks to Rubio's earlier efforts, eligible Venezuelan nationals currently in the U.S. now have deferred enforced departure status that allows them to live and work legally in the United States for the next 18 months. So you see, if you think that these Republicans are anti-immigrant because they're pro-worker, turns out, nah, when they want to violently overthrow the government of a country where these immigrants come from, then they'll give your job to an undocumented immigrant. They will let an immigrant take your job if they have to coup Venezuela so they could steal its oil. They're really not about protecting your job if another priority gets in the way. And that's Marco Rubio. And now he's going to be the chief diplomat. Chief diplomat, more important role than vice president, more important role than secretary of defense. What have we said under Joe Biden? You basically have President Antony Blinken. Well, here's Marco Rubio in this spot. You know who's really happy about this? Representative Maria Elvira Salazar says, amazing pick with Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. It's a bad day to be a dictator in Latin America. Well, let me tell you, if you care so much about your southern border, you don't want a problem on your southern border, you don't want a crisis at your southern border where immigrants are coming up faster than you can either catch them or turn them away or whatever. This is why you have a crisis at the southern border, because of maniacs like this and tweets like this and sentiments like this. You don't fuck with quote-unquote dictators in Latin America. You don't turn Latin American countries upside down. Guess what you don't have? You don't have an influx of people fleeing chaos up through your southern border. So if you care so much about the border, then you should be furious at a tweet like this. And you should be especially furious at an appointment like this from a guy like Trump, who ran on the border as much as he ran on anything else. This kind of hawkishness south of the border is what creates migrant crises. That is what creates migrant crises.
Right, exactly. Who likes to leave their country? How many people do you know who leave the country to go live someplace else? You'll know some people, right? But how many really who go to permanently live in another place?
Right.
You don't have millions of people who leave their home, who overcome their natural attachment to the place that they're from, unless you make them desperate. Why are these people desperate? Because of goons like Marco Rubio.
Exactly.
Now, Marco Rubio, something else Max tweeted out was, I think it was a book about the Trump campaign. And Marco Rubio lies about his own family background. He claims they fled Castro. They didn't flee Castro. They came to the country in 1956. They were fleeing Batista, who Castro overthrew.
Right.
He lies about, and hey, man, I don't think, because when you were growing up, your family was involved in the coke trade, which apparently some of his family was, some family members were. I don't think that should be a mark against you. I don't think you should be held responsible for that. But be honest about it, which he is not. Apparently, he had family members who did time over the drug trade involved in his campaigns and would not disclose what that real family history was. So he's just a lying scumbag. And the fact that you would put him in such a key position, that's not a minor position. And not even the assistant secretary of state to throw a bone. That the secretary of state, him? Wow.
Secretary of State is a springboard, as we know, to the nomination for president sometime in the future. This is the other thing that's really kind of crazy about this pick is you're really elevating a guy from the wing of the party that you disempowered to the point where he could potentially jump from this to the Republican nomination. Now, it looks like you're gonna, I mean, with Trump's
It
support,
looks like Vance's. Yeah.
sure, but Rubio's a young guy. So 4 years outside of that, if Vance loses or, even if Vance wins, Rubio is a young guy. You're you're throwing a real lifeline to a faction of the party that you disempowered and that the Republican voters have for now the last 8 years chosen to disempower. You're bringing them in and saying, okay, here, we're going to elevate you to the point where now next time Marco Rubio runs, and like I said, he's a fairly young guy, he's going to run again. Now he's got that on his resume. That's a big deal. I believe 10 secretaries of state have advanced to the party nomination in the history of this country. So you're, like I said, you're throwing a lifeline to these neocons who your whole candidacy was a rebuke of.
Right. You are ensuring their future. Right. You are ensuring that they do not become extinct ideologically, which is what people were electing you to do. Clearly. I have never spoken to a MAGA person who likes this wing of the party emphatically. That's why I have for Trump. Why, you think they don't know how to find Jeb Bush if that's what they wanted to support? They're supporting Donald Trump for a reason.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's a total betrayal of his base. You can see it in the conversation with MAGA. Like, a lot of them are being honest to their credit and saying this sucks. Yep, there's no hope for this country. A lot of them. A few
Told
of
you.
that. Yeah. So the nihilist wins again. But I mean, some of them are trying to. Certainly, when he appointed Tulsi, that was the only relief they had gotten since he started announcing them. Oh, see, yeah, no, see where he put her. He didn't put her someplace where she's really going to be speaking for the administration.
Right. I mean, Tulsi would have made sense in this role as Secretary of State. Because look, ostensibly,
we would have stopped and taken notice if he had done that. We would have had to say, yeah, man. I mean, that does send a message.
Right. Because look, I mean, there are ostensibly, I mean, Tulsi has proven pretty malleable on just about every opinion she's ever had, but I guess theoretically there are still some disagreements on domestic issues and social issues between Tulsi and Trump. Again, I don't know that for sure because she seems to have pivoted wholesale, but theoretically, let's just say former liberal Democrat has some disagreements on some domestic issues. That doesn't really affect Secretary of State. This is your diplomat. This is they are there to project your vision in terms of dealings with foreign countries and
somebody who has a history of not being a total maniac.
Well, this is what I mean. Yeah, her ethos in that realm, at least, is much more consistent, much more consistent with MAGA than this guy.
Right. Of course. Yeah. Well, he's the 180-degree opposite.
Exactly. All right. So Brian Berlitic tweets out, from no war hawks to all war hawks, Marco Rubio rounds out Trump's lying warmongering neocon cabinet. Rubio is a rabid anti-China hawk, enthusiastically repeating WMD-style lies about China and Iran, seeking to expand the U.S. confrontation with China over its island province of Taiwan. Trump had vowed no war hawks, campaigning on a peace platform, but has once again betrayed voters and stacked his administration with the very worst of the deep state's swamp creatures. What do Trump supporters do now? Protest, make excuses, get on board for war, and repeat the Trump administration's lies for another 4 years. If history is any guide, America's slide into the abyss has only just accelerated. Well, I would say option number one, this is what I said, this is what I've been saying for weeks now, is that, if Trump wins, and now that he's won, the base is the faction that has the most power over him. They were able to spike the Pompeo nomination. Now, that was either a situation where Trump thought that he could slip one past them and just got shut down due to an online tweet storm, or maybe Trump floated Pompeo as a sacrificial lamb. Hey, I'm going to act like I want to nominate Pompeo. I'm going to let my base freak out about it, and then I'm going to pull it to make it look like they have some influence. And then the next day, it's going to be one after the other, after the other, after the other, faster than they can protest. So you don't know about that. But what I do know is that if there's anyone he cares about, whose opinion he cares about, who don't write him $100 million checks, which is the unfortunate thing, because Miriam Adelson seems to have cornered that market pretty good. It's his base. You know, he's a narcissist. He likes good numbers. He likes good ratings. So the base may have some influence over him. Assuming there's going to be some left of center activism in the streets, you may want to join a protest if you agree with the cause. That's some way where you can build some numbers and exert some degree of influence. Because, you know, like I said, you know, I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't tell people to vote for Trump because I had a very strong feeling this was coming if and when he won. But I did say, to repeat myself, pardon me, that, you know, he did represent that gun with five loaded chambers and one empty one. So if you're going to play Russian roulette, you at least want to give yourself some kind of chance. Well, turns out you drew a hot chamber, seems like. So now you have to protest. You have to make your voice heard about that. You should not make excuses for this. Yeah, right.
Red-Brown Alliance. It's not just for colon cancer stool samples anymore.
Exactly. It's time for a Red-Brown Alliance. That's right. Danny Haifong, friend of both shows, Due Dissidents and the Jimmy Dore Show. Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, Mike Waltz. Welcome to Trump's AIPAC-owned administration of warmongers. The question is, will it be war with Iran first, war with China? Don't forget war with Russia. These neocons have a lust for all three.
Damn right.
The AIPAC tracker just documents what has happened here. Marco Rubio, a 7-figure AIPAC recipient with over $1 million. Elise Stefanik, 820 large. And, of course, Michael Waltz, a backer of the finish the job and get it over with Gaza strategy, $235,966. Now, Malcolm included this in the exhibits here. This is what I was talking about earlier. The Stop Pompeo movement, says Dave Smith, is great, but it's not enough. Right now, we need maximum pressure to keep all neocons and warhawks out of the Trump administration. They have had their time at the table and brought nothing but disaster to the world in this country. Well, Don Jr. seemed to agree with that at the time. Agreed. 100, 100, 100. I'm on it. Well, where are you?
Hey, you, get those tits over here.
Yeah, right. Where are you?
I think that's what he meant.
Yeah,
he's on that line of coke on that hooker's tits.
Maybe he went on a little bit of a bender. I don't know. I haven't heard from him in 3 days. I'd like to hear some follow up to that, because that is certainly not how things
he disappeared
shaped up. Yeah, yep, disappeared after that. This is funny here. Real Donald Trump keeping neocons out of his father's administration. Junior Donald Trump keeping neocons out of his father's administration. This is a GIF. Props to Malcolm for turning this GIF into a video. Here it is. Here's Don Jr. Vetting the neocons. Yeah, all right, you're good. Go ahead. All right, nothing there. All right, go. Yeah. All right, go. One after the other. Nicely done. Look, I think this was predictable. This is very much a replay of the first time so far, with a couple of exceptions here or there.
Yep.
I mean, you could certainly make the argument that, like, Rex Tillerson, his original Secretary of State pick, was much more MAGA aligned than Marco Rubio. I mean, you could argue that was much more a maverick pick than you got this time for Secretary of State. And you would have hoped that the sort of isolationist strain of his base, as represented by, people like Tucker Carlson and them, might have led to a less psychotically Zionist UN ambassador, a less psychotically Zionist ambassador to Israel, right? Send some kind of signal, hey, we do not exist at the pleasure of Israel. But no, that's not what you got. Instead, you got total fealty to Israel as this genocide enters what very well could be its final phase.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I can't say it's not what he promised. He did. Some people with hopium said, no. Once he gets in there, he's going to pull out the aces. He literally went on a stage and bragged about how fast he got the Adelson's will done when he was president. He literally bragged about it. So this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. We ourselves did not refuse to support or vote for Kamala or encourage others to do so because we thought any differently about Trump, except insofar as we thought maybe you draw the empty chamber, but that's still 5 chambers.
Yeah, it's still less than 20% chance on
exactly
that. Yeah.
This. We just felt, and this is what I've said to any lib who tries to go back to their virtue signaling bullshit after this election. You Project 2025, and you know what this did to rights? Listen, if genocide is not a red line for you, what red line could you possibly have? That is what our friend Professor Anthony Zink has said. If you vote for them after they've committed a genocide, they know there's nothing they can't do. That was the point. It was never, oh yeah, no, Trump's going to go in there. No, he's doing. We would have been very pleasantly surprised if this wasn't what he did. But if we had to bet, this is how we would have bet.
Yeah, and look, our approach to this was, a page out of the Abandoned Harris playbook. Our friend Shama Sawan at Workers Strike Back, and many others in this space have just made it very, very clear. During election season, on election day, you cannot reward genociders. You can't.
It's that simple.
You can't. Right. So they say, well, what if Donald Trump comes in and continues the genocide? Well, then you don't reward him either. Then you protest him too. Right. You have the same smoke for him as you did for Joe Biden, as you would have for Kamala had she won, as we're now going to have for Donald Trump, because as could have been expected, this is not really going to change. It's not really going to change. And the horrors in both Gaza and the West Bank now, according to their plan of annexation in 2025. See, Israel has their own Project 2025. See, Democrats didn't tell you about their Project 2025. They didn't fearmonger about that because it's more or less the Democrats as well. But now Israel is saying that, yeah, we're going to take the West Bank. And by the way, we're not going to let people return to their homes in northern Gaza, which means that's ours too.
This was always the plan. This is what they've done for their entire history. Pretend to be the victim while taking more land. That has been their strategy the whole time. They have always had a from the river to the sea hidden agenda. They'll say, no. Okay. Well, now they attacked us, so we have to occupy this region. It's temporary. Don't worry. You ever see them give anything back?
Right. Yep. All right, let's take some Rumble rants before we close the lights here. I could knock these out, right? We got, what do we got here? What do we have? We have some more here. Hempcar says, Trump taking suggestions for cabinet. And then you list a link there, policiesforpeople.com. All right, thank you. Adriano Valentino, Australia. Lots of politicians, heads of state, public servants need to go to jail for what they have done. Clinton's, Comey's, Brennan's, McCabe's, Strzok's, Letitia James. Trump better be cleaning house. Angoran, Judge Chutkan. Who's that? I don't even know who that is. Jerry Nadler, the Pelosi's, Liz Cheney's, the squad, etc. should all be investigated and sent straight to prison. He should have made you AG. I bet he has a little buyer's remorse over Matt Gaetz now. Hey, what happened to Adriano Valentino? He was ready to get it done. All right, more name. Oh no, you got that one. Okay. Marks Lives. Thank you for the administration would be so clownishly and openly Zionist that it may make being a Zionist Democrat even secretly untenable unless Jewish money says otherwise. T.S. Crasher. It'd be hilarious if he fired Rubio right after confirmation just to get him out of the Senate as revenge. There you go. The only tiny sliver of hope I can cling to, says Louise Brooks. Sorry, Louise. Louise Brooks for the donation. The only tiny sliver of hope I can cling to is that the Blue No Matter Who crowd will dust off their pussy hats and come out to protest genocide and war if Trump is doing it. All I've got at this point. Well, you never want to be in a position where you're counting on them. But look, I mean, maybe you can get, you know what we can make now if we're going to have
They can run on MGG, make genocide great again.
Well, there you go. Could do that. I was going to have an idea if we really wanted to have a cross-partisan unity anti-genocide protests. we could have pussy hats with the MAGA logo on them. So everybody can have pink pussy hats with the Make America Great Again logo on them. That'll be a real show of bipartisan anti-genocide sentiment. All right, I guess that's our show tonight, folks. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks to Gary from